Welcome on the podcast, Rishi.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. I saw you interviewed Harry and Gabe, so I think I'm in good company, I think.
Okay, great. Why do you think debating and the topic of debates is still important, especially like in today's age where everybody kind of seems to just debate out of kind of not take it as an art but as a defensive mechanism when they scream at each other and don't have a proper argument?
Well, this might be a hot take, but I actually see no problem with people fighting with each other on the internet without structure because it's really just a way for people to release steam. And a lot of debate is really emotional. It's not all about having structured logic and argument. So it's important to understand what forum you're in, what format you're in. So if people want to be mean in Instagram comment sections, and that's their prerogative, they can do whatever they want. But I think it's important to understand that the types of arguments people have are very different. There's a wide range of different types of argument in structured competitions like I teach, in formal discussions which are recorded in long form like on YouTube. Those conversations are obviously a lot more productive, but everyone has free will. They can do whatever they want.
Makes sense, honestly. And I wanted to talk about after that how many people like kind of scream at the internet at each other, kind of let them release steam, and it's not really productive. Even before, how should people choose what to argue, what arguments or what debates or anything to engage in? Because there's a lot of things people can kind of agree, disagree on, and kind of how should they choose what to get into?
Well, it depends on the person. And some people really care about a particular political issue, especially if it affects them personally. So I think that that's a very straightforward reason for people to engage in debating. But my opinion is more like you should enjoy the process of trying to learn new things, be comfortable admitting that you're wrong, and treat debate as like a method of understanding other people's perspectives. So you should theoretically be willing to debate about anything. I like to choose to debate about something that someone else is knowledgeable about so that I can learn more, update my beliefs and stuff like that.
And do you think there are topics that people should not debate on, or you think like everything is debatable?
I think everything is debatable. I think it's somewhat like humor. Everything, should be made fun of. And that's a controversial opinion. Some people say, don't joke about certain things, but I'm of the opinion that you should be able to debate about everything, even things that we take for granted.
Interesting. When I was kind of doing research for this, I kind of came across opinion that the only thing that shouldn't be debatable is kind of the moral values of the other person, or debatable that we kind of shouldn't debate, that we should listen to even to this person, or if they kind of, as I said, moral values. So wanted to kind of talk about it. I don't have like a clear point on that, but I've heard that many people were talking about it and wanted to know your opinion.
Yeah, so there's this philosopher called Nietzsche, and in his book Beyond Good and Evil, he talks about how a lot of morality that we think is intrinsically valuable is actually coming from somewhat of an arbitrary place. So he critiques the notion of selflessness as a virtue or slave morality, and instead says, we should have more people who are more Roman as opposed to more Christian. And this isn't something that I personally agree with or disagree with. It's just a point that sort of illustrates that people can have virtues that they think are untouchable or unquestionably good, but at the same time, we can all acknowledge that there are situations where our morals would not apply. So, for example, if you're a selfless person, you can also realize that being a people pleaser is bad. So Nietzsche would say, well, you should have a will to power in that situation. You should be more assertive. Similarly, like we all might think death is bad, but if you're a soldier and you have no choice and you're going to be killed yourself if you don't follow orders, killing some evil person on the other side of the battlefield is something that we would, not necessarily critique. It's hard to critique people who are forced into positions of violence. So all morals are contextual, and you don't have to alienate the other person by debating their morals. In fact, asking people why they believe what they believe or doing so in a respectful way is something which is very possible. And I would caution against trying to engage in discussion with people by not, trying to disturb them. You can be respectful, but you can still probe a little bit into why people believe what they believe. I don't have to say you are wrong, your morals are wrong, but I can still make you question certain things that you've taken for granted and bring up those as points of discussion. And I think it's a very scary thing for society when we're never allowed to challenge other people's beliefs. And debate is about challenging other people's beliefs, including their morals.
Interesting. Okay, then we should get into what skills does a person need to acquire to become better at debating?
It's kind of a backwards question. You acquire skills by debating. The process of learning is really data and then reflection. So if you do something and then you think and reflect on what worked, what didn't work, then that's how you build skills. Skills are really, noticing the patterns that are behind a lot of what actually works and then repeating those until they become second nature or habitual. So you acquire skills of debating through debating and reflection. And there's a constant action paralysis that people are in where they're always trying to think like, oh, what would be good? Like, what do I need to learn? Really, you should just act first and then reflect on what worked and what didn't work and then act again. Learning is a feedback loop. It's not something that you can do from, sitting inside your room. You have to actually go and do things.
Yeah, because even I thought in this way of kind of what do I need to learn first to get better at debating, but probably, as you said, it's better to just take action, get feedback, and improve in that way. But yeah, even when you are in the debating, I've heard that a big part of debating is listening. So maybe how should people who are not in those competitive but kind of debates can kind of improve their listening or my listening kind of mindset these debaters have.
Well, it depends on where you're starting from. I think many people have great listening mindsets already. I think some people who don't have great listening mindsets are really capable listeners, but they're not choosing to listen because they've been personally offended by something someone else has said, or they're distracted with something else. So everyone is capable of listening. It's just a question of, can you put in the effort in the moment, or can you feel your emotion, acknowledge it, but not let it cloud what you're hearing? It's just practice, I think. And just turning on the switch in your brain to remember to listen to people is just a question of practice, I think. And then, again, reflecting on what works and then doing it again and again.
And when you're listening to some arguments, even what goes through your head? What's the questions that come up when you're listening to someone?
Well, it depends. That's a pretty broad question. There are situations where I think someone is wrong. There are situations where I agree with someone. And there are situations where I don't know what's going on. So I'm trying to understand what someone is saying. It really depends on what the other person is saying. But really, my reaction is, I understand, I don't understand. If I understand, then I agree or I disagree. Or I'm neutral,
Yeah, let's say somebody is kind of making a point that you know you kind of disagree with. How do you kind of construct in your mind kind of the opposing argument?
Well, that also depends. It's a pretty broad question. I think it can, so I would say it depends on what they're arguing. But in general, I try to just bring up something they've said earlier, which contradicts something that they're saying now. Because I think my own knowledge is persuasive, but the knowledge that they know is more persuasive to the other person if my objective is to change their mind. If I'm trying to win a debate, then maybe I will come up with 6 or 7 responses to just explain why they're wrong.
Interesting. And again, when I was doing this research on this kind of debating topic, I came through the topic of rhetorics, and it seemed like it had not popular in many cases, especially it was kind of the Socratic age. It was not really popular, so if you could tell something more about it and how like debaters use it and even people in the kind of normal life. It's broader, but like you can take your time with the answer.
So rhetoric is actually very popular right now. I think Charlie Kirk is a great example of someone who is a very powerful rhetorician. But rhetoric is different from quality of argument. So Charlie Kirk is someone who is a very, very famous debater, but he's obviously not the best debater or even close to that. There's these clips of him destroying college students or something. But when he debates real debaters, like there's some clip of him debating some British students at the University of Cambridge, and he's getting absolutely embarrassed by these kids. And those students aren't even winning debate tournaments in the UK. They're losing to random Croatian people, and even those people are losing to some other people. And there's like big tiers of skills in debate where the strongest debaters you probably don't even know of because they just do debate for fun and they're not interested in being popular. And I think just being a really good debater doesn't actually make you a very popular rhetoric person. So that's where rhetoric can come into play, where it's very powerful for influencing masses of people. So the best debater is someone you've never heard of, but the most famous debater is someone you have heard of. So that's why you might know of someone like Dean Withers or Charlie Kirk, because these people have powerful rhetoric. They have really good, strong social media teams and smart strategy. They're running it almost like a political campaign. They know how to influence people with how they talk as opposed to what they're saying. And I think that this is one of the reasons that Trump has won a lot of elections in America. It's because he has really, really powerful rhetoric. And despite, maybe some of his opponents having stronger logic at times, he is able to overwhelm other people because they just can't connect with their audience at the same level. So even though I'm saying Charlie Kirk wasn't the best debater, and there were many, many, many debaters who were much better than him, he was a very phenomenal person of rhetoric, and I really respect his ability to do that. And he worked very hard, I'm sure, as well, going to a bunch of different campuses and had a very smart social media strategy.
Yeah, and for somebody that like haven't heard of the term rhetoric, or sorry for my English, but how would you define it in simple
Let me
words?
Google. Define rhetoric. I would just say like how someone talks as opposed to what they say. So it says, is the art or study of using language effectively to persuade, inform, or move an audience. In everyday use, it can also mean speech or writing that sounds persuasive, but may be empty or insincere. I usually refer to rhetoric as the second, which is something that sounds really good, but it's not correlated with how logical it is.
Do you think like the most popular social media influencers have good rhetoric?
The most popular social media debaters do. I think Dean Withers has good rhetoric. I don't think all of his arguments are very logical, but I think he has great rhetoric. Sometimes his arguments are very logical, but I think he is definitely capable of, explaining himself in a way that other people really like.
Makes sense. Because when it comes to like how people talk and kind of maybe even link it to charisma, even maybe it connects to it. And I think a lot of social like media influencers, they don't have either very much good valuable content, but it's something about them and the way how they maybe talk to the camera, and people love it, and people kind of, that's the term influencers. That's why brands kind of pay them for that. And many people kind of talk about you need to learn how to yap to camera because like now UGC is kind of popular and all of that stuff.
Yeah. I think making content is definitely a skill. Like I have a lot of respect for these debaters, like there's this guy named Parker, there's this guy named Dean, and they're very, very smart content creators. They're very capable speakers. They're probably better speakers than me. And it's not just about like being a very smart, logical person, because some debaters will say, oh, I'm smarter than you, therefore I'm better than you. But the world is really complicated, and it is definitely a skill to do well on social media. I've gotten like maybe 50 million views, but I don't even have 10,000 followers, maybe only 1,000 or something followers on my page. So I have a lot of respect for them. They've definitely put in the hours, I think. I always see like Dean doing TikTok live streams. He's like constantly doing them. So it really is about a lot of effort that you have to put in to get to that level. And it's a skill, I think, just being able to present yourself in a way that connects with a large number of people. Like debate is kind of like a nicher version of that, which is when there's a judge, trying to explain to a judge why you're better than someone else is very different than trying to convince a viewer, that what you're saying is valuable and that they should stop and listen to you. So I think it's definitely a skill, and it's something that I respect, and it's something that obviously brands care a lot about, because if you can make people listen to you, you're a very powerful person.
I agree with that for sure. For example, if a person is starting to either debate or kind of on social media, starting their thing, do you have any tips for them to how to use rhetoric or how to kind of get into speaking more confidently about the points they are making, even the value they are creating, that they are just starting, and kind of tips? Or would you just say them that you need to just get the reps in?
Yeah, I mean, like half of it is getting reps in, like the Higher Up Wellness Public Speaking Challenge or whatever. But I think that there's a lot of great criticism of this. Like, obviously, I've said that these people have worked hard to become famous, go viral, etc. But a lot of it is about loving what you do as well. So there's this another content creator I like called Farzi, and he's criticized Higher Up Wellness, saying that you just need to post consistently in order to make money or whatever. But really, I think creating content should be enjoyable. And I have a lot of fun making content just for myself. I do try to go viral sometimes, but I don't always try to force myself to make content that is optimized for the algorithm, because, I did go down that route. I did do a lot of rage bait, especially when I first started. And it's actually not fulfilling. Like getting 1 million views from rage bait is far less fulfilling than getting 1,000 views from something really fun that you did on your own. And I stole this from Prosper Chu, actually. Like whenever I make a video for myself and I really like it, I always like my own video. So it's not always about like how many views can you get. So really my tip to anyone would just be find something sustainable that you can enjoy, and then iterate on it until it's something that finds the right group of people, because really your goal isn't to make everyone in the world happy. It's really to find the community of people who resonate with what you want to do, and then now you have your own community. So I think that that's the much more sustainable and fun way to approach social media.
So yeah, social media, honestly. But I kind of halfly agree with the kind of advice that you need to be just consistent, and you will make money on the internet, because nowadays competition, I think, it's high, and you will not kind of get better just by consistency. It's kind of, as you said, those feedback loops, just getting better, because when you just post every day without thinking, it will be just kind of, you get into that slop. And even I've been there, that I was just posting, but there was this illusion of getting better and I'm consistent. But at the same time, I wasn't really either thinking about it, I wasn't experimenting. I think experimentation plus consistency can get you like further than just consistent posting. Like, it is important, but I think you need more now for you to succeed.
Yeah, I think learning is really about action and reflection. So some people are not acting at all because they're just watching YouTube videos and trying to learn as much as possible. And then some people are only acting without trying to learn about how to take better actions. So you can't just do one or the other. You need to do both. So it's about a feedback loop. Act, reflect, act, reflect. If you're just posting low quality content, you're not going to go anywhere. So you actually have to try and get better every time, put in genuine effort, and try and reflect and make it even better. And that's where you start to actually compound. Otherwise, you're just going to like stay the same. And definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So you got to do the same thing with like one small change, and then you can expect a different result. So really, you have to just iterate, and then get a little bit better.
Yeah. To what range do you think empathy is important in kind of debates and conversating?
Well, I think empathy is very important in conversation. In a fight with someone, empathy is very important because some people, their objective is to win an argument, but especially like in most relationships, you want to be in a situation where you're not actually alienating the other person because you value the relationship more than the argument. But in a competition, I think empathy is not important. If you're trying to win, then just try to win. So obviously, it depends on the situation. Having empathy for your opponent can be a bad thing. And I think sometimes you do need to have like a killer instinct if you want to get to the true upper echelons of any competition. So I remember when I was trying to really compete, I wouldn't talk to anyone. I would take it super seriously. I would watch like Kobe videos every morning and like just try and obsess about destroying the other person. So like, obviously, like I'm friends with these guys at the end of the day, but I have to like turn that off in the moment because if you really want to be like the top, not just like top 1%, like number one, if you want to be number one, you have to think you're better than everyone else, and having an ego is actually essential for that. And if you're too empathetic, then you might not be able to like act with the like confidence you need in certain competitive situations. But yeah, outside of a competitive situation and environment, then of course, empathy is very important, but I think it really is contextual.
And for example, when you're competing and you think kind of you're better than everyone else, you have that low kind of sense of empathy because you think that's what gets that's what gets you to win. Don't you think that maybe in some points you kind of can overhear some of the points or miss something, and then you end up kind of saying something dumb or that has no like clear point just because kind of you're getting to that killer instinct, or is it just something you've done debate so many times that this just can't happen and you kind of just getting killer arguments out of your head?
Well, personally, I thought I was the best debater in America. So when I was debating in college, so I have no fear of saying anything dumb. So it's not about saying something that I'll miss something, whatever. Like, I'm not like pretending to be the best. Like, I thought I was the best, genuinely. So it wasn't like, what if I say something dumb? Let me manifest, let me pretend to be great. It was just like, I genuinely thought I was better than other people. And I noticed myself taking like pity on other people or like trying to be nice to them. And then that affecting the decisiveness with which I would deliver things. Being nice because I was better than someone else was hurting me because I like it's better to in a competitive sense. So I'm a very sweet guy, low key, most of the time. So I have to like turn that off if I'm trying to compete because I will like empathize with someone but in a debate, like I want to embarrass you. Like I want to explain, hey, you're dumb. Like that's like not empathetic. Like calling, like attacking the other person for their logic, etc., is like it can always like kind of fringe on personal. So I like will shy away from that because I'm like a very Buddhist person. I like try to be nice. So I have to like turn that off because otherwise I'm just going to be like, I'm not going to be able to like say with full confidence that like this person is an idiot. And you need to be able to say that sometimes, especially if you want to win. And a lot of the time, you can't really take chances. So that's not advice I would give to everyone. And I'd certainly tell my students to act nice. But personally, I do have to be an asshole sometimes if I want to win. So I think it's important. But I think empathy most of the time in like real life is important. So I don't really have to do that anymore, like be egotistical. But it was a part of me that I had to cultivate.
I think for competing, I've heard about this mindset a lot. I know this can be a big topic, but Many times you mentioned kind of logic and logic of other people. I know this is a broad question, but I've heard like many people talking about it and kind of defining it, trying to define it and what it is, what it isn't, and in many cases. So I wanted to like know even kind of in short way, your opinion on that.
Like, what is logic?
What is logic?
Let me Google. What is the definition of logic? For me, it's just like a formal syllogism or set of statements, essentially. So logic is the study of correct reasoning and principles that help determine whether an argument is valid. Yeah, so it's drawing conclusions from given information. So I personally think like debate isn't about truth, it's about consistency. So it's about explaining why your opponent's argument is inconsistent, why yours is preferable to theirs, etc. So you have to start from some axiom or assumption and then go from there.
So you think it's just about inconsistency? Because when I kind of Googled the definition of debate on Google, it kind of came to this something like an honest discussion to get to truth. And this is kind of like
Yeah, that's
countering to
bullshit.
that. Why do you think is that? Tell me more.
You can't access truth from debating because, like, even science is just a way of knowing things. But the thing with debate is there's no such thing as external knowledge that you can gain from a debate. You can only at best discover if your point is consistent, internally consistent. So if someone else exposes that you have a contradiction in your own logic, then you realize, okay, my point is inconsistent. But if someone beats you in the debate, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're right about something in the real world. So I could beat someone in a debate about like flat earth or something, but that doesn't make it true that the earth is flat. That's like a scientific question, not a question of like if my logic is consistent or not. If I have stronger logic than you, the debate just is about who did the better debating. It is not about truth. So it's like in fact, I think like people should win arguments that are not true more often if they do the better debating. It's like a very logical way to evaluate things. And otherwise, debate is not about like who did the better debating, but just about who presented the more true statement about the world. So if I show up in a debate and I say something true, then it doesn't matter what my opponent says, I automatically win. That's not a debate. A debate is like based on formal logic and how to actually explain why someone else is wrong. And it's not about like external reality necessarily or making a referendum on that. It's just like, is something internally consistent, yes or no?
Interesting. Okay, and let's say right now, like how to study arguments. For example, when you're watching some argument, for example, you mentioned Charlie Kirk. How do you kind of study it and maybe even take some kind of tips or advice from it or something that you want to try in your next argument? And yeah, for that, how do you study arguments?
Well, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk, no disrespect, but I would never study Charlie Kirk. Like, when you're studying for argument, you shouldn't study rhetoric because, like, Charlie's not saying anything which is, like, very logically, like, oh my God. He's going to say, like, what is a woman? And then they'll, like, embarrass themselves. But, like, you're not always going to be debating against someone who's way less informed than you. Charlie's, like, bullying people. So I wouldn't study that. I would study two people of equal caliber debating each other, not like Charlie Kirk bullying someone who's like worse than him. So that's the first thing. Pick an actual debate to study, not like some street Ben Shapiro embarrassing someone situation. So I would first find a real debate on YouTube from two experts in a field that you think is interesting. And then I would just like take notes and think about what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and then try and answer every other person's argument yourself. See what arguments you thought were persuasive and go from there.
Yeah, and how do you kind of, when you're studying these arguments, How do you kind of know who won the argument?
Well, the way you decide the winner and loser of a debate is based on who did the better debating. As I said, debate is not about truth, it's about consistency. So every claim is a claim. Every statement that I say in a debate is just some supposition about the world that I've stated. It's an assertion. So claims are not like truths. So we have to think about like the relationships between other claims I've made. So for example, if I say dogs are better than cats because they're friendlier, I've made two claims basically, which is like dogs are friendly and dogs are better than cats. So one person might say, okay, this claim that dogs are better than cats, is this true or false? And then I have a separate claim, which is that dogs are friendlier than cats, and this supports my original claim. So now I have one that this claim is true. But I can still make another claim that like actually no, cats are friendlier than dogs. So, and there's no way to know basically unless we use some external claim to validate something. So the way we resolve things is essentially two ways. So one is someone can say something and the other person doesn't respond to it. And that argument is considered dropped in a debate. So if I say that the earth is flat or God is real and my opponent says nothing, then even if you're an atheist or like a scientist, you might like totally disagree with my claim and think it's absurd. I've still won the debate because my opponent has said nothing. So that's the first thing. And the second thing you could do is explaining why a rebuttal to the other person's point is irrelevant. And a dropped rebuttal is essentially one way to win. The second way to win is through implications, which are explaining why some argument that someone else made is irrelevant. So if I were to say, so let's say like my opponent makes the argument, Donald Trump should stop spending on the military and spend on education instead so that people can get jobs, students can get jobs. If I said, you're wrong because spending money on education doesn't actually help people get jobs because the kids will become spoiled or something and they won't work hard. So this is a rebuttal, and let's say my opponent drops this and doesn't answer this, then I've won the debate. But I can also win the debate by explaining why this argument doesn't matter, which is like AI will mean that there's going to be no more jobs. So even if you're correct that spending money on education gets people jobs, it doesn't matter. So in one situation, I'm saying you're wrong, so I win. In the other version, I'm saying even if you're right, it doesn't matter because of some other claim I've made, so you're wrong. So it doesn't matter if you're wrong, so I win. So those are the two ways. So I can say Trump not spending on the military will cause a war, and that will be worse for the economy, so there'll be no jobs. So even if their point is correct, there's something else which can confound it. So there's two ways. A dropped argument that explains why someone is wrong, so an unanswered argument that explains why someone is wrong, or an argument which is about why it doesn't matter if someone else has made a particular claim. And whenever there's two claims that are contesting each other, you have to look at some other claim in the debate to decide who was right about something. That's essentially how you decide who won or lost the debate.
Interesting. To get like more into studying kind of these arguments even, or not studying, as you said that like Charlie Kirk or honestly anybody else could be just a bully that is good with rhetoric and just like knows how to get on with their words. How should you, even in normal life, you kind of meet these bullies maybe on a daily basis, how you should kind of react to them or how you should respond so they wouldn't just kind of crash you into the ground just by kind of making prettier sentences that make more sense. Not make more sense.
Well,
You know what
you
I mean.
just have to get good. If you're getting embarrassed by people who are better at debating than you, then you just have to get better at debating. If you care about it. If you don't care, then move on. That's what I would say. There's nothing else you can do besides getting better at arguing.
Interesting. How do you kind of make your arguments kind of bulletproof? So even like the person you're debating, they like some points can be, I think, like easily kind of breakable, and some points seem like it's so kind of that make sense, and you seem to not not even touch them, or you can break them. How can you make points like that?
Well, I have to think about the worst possible situation and try and make my argument prepared even in that situation. So let's say I was forced to argue that nuclear weapons are good against a Japanese mom whose dad died in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, it's like a really bad situation. Like, what am I supposed to do? I would prepare for that specific situation. So maybe I would look up how many people were going to die if the United States invaded Japan. How many Japanese people would have died in that situation? And then speak with a lot of empathy for her, and talk about actually why there was a lot of loss of life averted. Talk about maybe why nuclear war prevents conventional wars because of mutually assured destruction. I don't know. And then sort of talk from there. But really just like think about the worst possible situation and then prepare entirely for that situation.
For example, when you you have an argument, or you're just, I think in competition it is like you need to kind of take a side from the argument, like on the statement, and then kind of they choose your side if you kind of go against it, or kind of like with it, or how can I say it in English? But when you're kind of agreeing for something, or you're making statements for that thing, that why was, for example, the why are atomic bombs good, for example, or with that Hiroshima thing, how, when you disagree with fully, how should you make points and debate in it when you fully disagree with the kind of point?
Well, you should always ask yourself, why do I disagree with this? So the reason for why I might think atomic bombs are bad is because I think death is bad and killing people is bad. So then I should think, okay, how is this resolved on one particular side? So actually, nuclear weapons are something which prevent war from happening because people are afraid of getting nuked. They won't attack each other. So this is deterrence theory. So maybe there will be less life lost because of nuclear weapons existing, and there will be less war. So I can think atomic weapons are bad, but I can also think war is worse. So that's like an example of like how I could come to that rationalization. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's kind of gets back to questioning your own beliefs
Yeah.
back again. And to get a little bit more into your story, how did you get into debating? How did you get kind of coaching at Harvard? And what's your story?
Well, I'll talk about how I started debate. So I actually was not a really good debater at first, and that's because I didn't really care. My first ever debate partner, I showed up late to the tournament, and she texted my mom or something, like, "Where is your son?" Something. I don't know how she got my mom's number, but she was freaking out because I did no work, and then I just showed up. So that was really bad. The reason I signed up in the first place was because everyone in my middle school got to go on a skiing trip, and I didn't get to go on the skiing trip with them. So I was like, never again. I'm going to travel in high school. So I signed up for the debate team because they got to travel. And I was really, really bad. So I was like, man, I hate this. So I wanted to become good. So I'm a very competitive person. I hate losing. So that's why I decided to become better. And eventually I actually enjoyed it. But really, I just wanted to travel in the beginning. And then I just like debated for like 8 years. And then I became pretty good.
I think many people may have like this feeling of maybe not even kind of debating, or maybe they are such an agreeable person and they don't really have their own opinions even, and they kind of want to get better. What would you kind of say to that person? Because I know I was, or I still am, this kind of makes sense, and it isn't said with my kind of value, so I will not question it or something like that. I'm a very agreeable person, and how can those people kind of make their point and like question things, kind of disagree with things and all of that?
Well, I don't think they have to. If people are agreeable, then you don't have to debate. Debate is voluntary. It's not an activity that any parent should force their children to do, or anyone should force themselves to get into. If you want to argue, then you should argue. If you don't want to argue, then don't argue. If you want to go play tennis, then go play tennis. It's like, you don't have to play tennis. It's not forced upon you. You have free will and you should do whatever you want.
For example, somebody now wants to get into that debate, or even like wants to travel, wants to even get into competition, wants to get better at, maybe they've lost a lot of arguments while they were in school or something, and they want to get better. How would you say they should kind of make their own opinion? Or, of course, you said it is just practice, practice, practice. Yeah. But how would they kind of start just making their own point, just getting into it?
Look at the news, find a topic, and then give a speech on it. Practice giving speeches. Find something that they want to give a speech on, and then try and give a 5-minute speech on that. And then just practice.
Yeah, practice. I think it's in most things, it's practice, honestly. And now we can get a little bit into your app, which I think many people even can practice their argument skills, because even I kind of got into it, and I think it's super fun. So can you tell like more about that, even story about your app?
Yeah, so my co-founder Neil, he actually came up with the idea of using AI for debate because, large language models, obviously they're really good at language, and debate is language related. So he made this like AI that debates against you. And then he was like asking me for feedback, like all good founders should do. You should ask the people who are in your domain, your customers, like, hey, like, what do you think about this? And I was like, oh my God, like, this is sick. So that's like why I wanted to join. I was like, this is like so cool. I think this is the future. It was like a perfect match of my skill set and what he had done. So I was instantly hopping on the idea of just anything AI and debate related. And we've been working on it for 2 years. And we've iterated on it a lot. So right now, the way we primarily make money is like with working with after school programs in a bunch of places. So debate education, using AI to assist with debate education. Also, we're going to run a summer camp using our AI at Lexington High School in Massachusetts. We work with people. We're going to do a camp and workshop in Ghana. We have some students in Taiwan, some students in Vietnam and India, and in a lot of these Asian countries, debate is pretty big there because it's a way for students to learn how to speak in English and practice thinking and speaking in English, because in school, most of the time it's grammar or memorization, but debate, you actually have to practice speaking and defending your own points in English. So it's a very educational, valuable thing for them there. And obviously it's very useful for college. Like, I probably wouldn't have gotten into grad school at Harvard without, being a really good debater. And it's very important for undergrad because you can get scholarships, and everyone can have really good grades, but only one person can say they've won a debate tournament. So it helps you stand out from other people. So that's why a lot of parents like it. So we're using AI to help other people with their debate education. If you were to go home and write an essay, you would probably cheat and just like use ChatGPT to write your essay. But you can't cheat if you're having to give a speech for homework. Instead of having AI help you, now you're having to debate against the AI for homework, and it's recorded. So you can't have the AI speak for you. We have an AI detector, so you can't have the AI write your arguments for you. So it's also really good for in-class activities, because if I'm a debate judge, I can only judge just 2 people at once. But if there's a class of 50 students, there can be 25 debates at once, and all of them are judged by the AI. So it's really good for efficient debating in class, and it's fun as well. The kids like doing it. They like debating against the Buddha or Trump or Karl Marx or whoever. So we try to make it gamified and fun for them as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, do you think right now, if AI was to debate against, like, let's say the best debater in the world, who do you think would win?
Right now, the best debater in the world in 2028, I think it's going to be AI.
Okay. Interesting. Do you think there will be a tournaments where people will debate against like kind of different types of AI, like even officially, not even just for kind of like this learning purposes?
Well, my personal vision is professional debate will require humans to debate humans with AI judging because human beings can't be trusted to judge debates. Maybe some guy will vote for a girl because he really likes her, or some liberal will vote for a leftist argument, or a conservative will vote for a Republican argument because it's aligned with their personal philosophies. And they're not actually going to judge debates fairly. Oftentimes in high school tournaments, parents will judge debates between kids. So it's not fair. But in AI, which is smarter than humans, it would be a very, very fair, not biased judge. And it's definitely a higher capability than humans. So I think there will be professional tournaments where streamers or content creators who like debates can enter, and you can maybe win money. If you pay a certain entry fee, it goes to a prize pool. And I think that our vision is to be able to host the media platform for all of those debates to happen and sort of like people watch debate. So Charlie Kirk has gone very viral. I'm sure some entertaining debates would get a lot of viewership and traction. You know, the presidential debate got lots of views. Kind of making debate just like entertainment as well, because I think it should be fun and it should be something that shapes civil discourse. So it should be something that is, you know, in the popular eye. But really, I think the thing holding that back from taking place, professional debate from taking place, is just humans are biased as judges. But with a fair AI judge that really can render a decision on things objectively, I think professional debate or televised debate can be much more mainstream. And I think that's something that we would like to create and make happen. And hopefully, you know, it's something that's bigger than golf, at least, you know, because I think golf is boring. But so
I think that's a great vision for like kind of the future of debating, honestly. Because even when I like was doing, you know, even watching debates, I think it's so interesting, you know, even the emotion in it, you know, the arguments and all of that. Even when, you know, the debaters aren't the best, but it is still kind of entertaining, even when normal people do it.
yeah, if you've ever seen Jubilee videos get so many
Yes.
views. Charlie Kirk got so many views. Like, debate is a view factory. Like, we got 50 million views from pure rage bait. So I think it's like definitely something which there is a lot of appetite for. And I think that it's pretty profitable as a business. We have a lot of competitors who are trying to do debate AI related things, but I think that if we were to succeed and have, you know, the best AI debate judge and set up an infrastructure for professional tournaments, I think it would be some of the most important media rights in the world because there are just so many eyeballs on it. Of course, like advertisers and politics really care a lot. So I think that it would be probably some of the most lucrative, profitable things that any business could do. So I think that that's why there's a lot of people who are interested in AI and debate in the long run. I think professional debate is definitely a part of that vision. And there's like creators like Hasanabi who are getting 50,000 viewers on Twitch like every day. So I'm not worried at all about the viewership on debate. Really, it's about how fast will AI get there? Because it's an inevitable thing. AI will become smarter than us. It will become a better debater than us. It's only a matter of time until I think people have accepted AI as truly something which is capable of judging humans debating. And then I think professional debate will take off from there.
Interesting. And like right now, how like what's your kind of not like strategy, but how do you think about getting even your app a little bit more mainstream? You've talked about that you have a lot of kind of workshops, even getting them into schools, lectures. Do you think that it will be more of kind of word to word that they are like going on a lot of schools, or do you think like getting more content into it, or how do you think about it right now?
Yeah, so for us, our go to market is focused on education in schools. Like I said, professional tournaments are great, but first we need to have tournaments as a proof of concept. Right now, the debate tournaments that are being hosted by schools. So that's where we are starting. And I think really building up an ecosystem of people who use our tool all over the world is very important to us. You know, I don't just want to make as much money as possible. I also really like teaching. It's very valuable to me and very fun. So I do want to use AI to actually improve kids' critical thinking skills and not just like rot them. So that's where we're focusing now. Like strategy wise, I think there will be professional debate eventually. I think if it's not us, it will be someone else. I think really it's just a question of like AI judging, setting up media broadcasting for everything, public buy-in, etc. We think that going to debate schools and stuff is the best first step. Some other people are starting with the mainstream. We weren't able to make money right away off the mainstream. That's why we don't post as much actually on Instagram anymore. I post for fun on Instagram, but most of our work has been through word of mouth, through people who have loved our product and just like recommended us to other schools. On the internet, we get a lot of like random keyboard warriors who are interested, but I think it's really one of those things which requires critical mass to really take off. We want to start with schools first before we go mainstream. But I think mainstream will happen eventually, maybe in like 2027 for us.
Interesting. Okay. I hope it will because like for now you can like kind of explain how like right now it like your kind of app works if they wanted to try it.
Yeah, so it's debatearena.app. I want the domain debate.com. Hopefully we can get enough money to buy that. Essentially, you can go online and then send a link to your friend and then have a debate, or you can debate against a AI opponent if you have no friends. Yeah, just check it out. It's pretty simple and intuitive. Most people kind of know what to do by just looking at the site. So yeah, if you're a school or teacher, definitely hit me up. So we do a lot. There's a lot of educational tools on the site. So for people who want to get better at debate, a lot of those are paywalled. But if you want to get better at debate, we have a lot of educational tools as well, practice tools.
Interesting. You can do your promo shamelessly because I actually like the app, so I have no problem promoting it. To that, how do you actually kind of teach debate? Is it just through getting like your students in the class like into like these pairs and getting them to like kind of debate, or you do have some exercises that you can leak?
Exactly that. I pair up everyone and then I have them debate each other. Iron sharpens iron. No one gets better at debating without anyone else. You need to debate against someone else and you need to practice. And really, my job is to give them really quality feedback. Like I said, learning is a feedback loop and you have to act and then reflect. Sometimes kids will make the wrong reflections, so we'll learn the wrong lessons from our actions, and my job is to sort of guide them through the right lessons that I've learned and try and expedite the process, make it as fast as possible. And our internal KPI at Debate Arena is progress over time. How fast can a student learn? And that's our goal with the AI feedback as well. We have an AI judge that judges if this person lost, if this person won, and what this person could do better next time, what they did good that they should do again, and just trying to instill that in them so that they can get as many reps as possible.
What is the most common kind of bad feedback or bad lesson that people take from kind of their debates when they are debating someone after?
I lost, so I am bad. Or I am dumb. You are not dumb because you lost a debate. I think that this is the number one thing that people feel when they lose debates. Debate is just practice. It's not about your inherent intelligence or technique. Just get smarter. You'll get smarter. Practice. It's nothing personal. Like I was saying earlier, like I like to pretend that my opponents are dumb when I'm trying to compete and win. But my opponents are very smart most of the time. So that's just an illusion that I need to get under when I'm in a competitive mindset. Debate is really done between smart people. So just being in the room makes you smart. You deserve to be there. So I think that there's a lot of unconfident students who feel like they've lost too much and therefore they're not good at debate. They're not smart. They don't deserve to be there. And really, I promise you, it's just a skill issue. You just need to get good and it's not your inherent capability. Like I spent 6 years losing debates before I became one of the best debaters in America. So I think like anyone can do it. Really, you can get there. It doesn't matter how talented you are. Just like work hard and you'll get there.
Okay. I think we can end on this note of you just really need to practice. And I wanted to thank you for this podcast. I've learned a lot, and people can like check out your app, or even some schools or everybody. So the link will be in the comments, and the link for your social media too. And yeah, it was great to have you here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you too.